So we have a lot of weird and stupid conversations around this office. And one of the conversations I just couldn't let go of was our conversation about mages, wizards, sorcerers, and any other ilk that use magic, right?
Do druids count?
Hold that thought. So I just wanted to talk about like different representations of mages in games, what mages you like, what that means to you, and basically just a really dorky conversation. That's how I envision this going.
Yeah, I think we can accomplish that.
Okay.
High nerddom.
Yeah, high nerddom for sure.
Everyone has magic. The hunter, let's go to WoW, the hunter, the warrior, all of those people, they're casting magic. I know it's using rage or it's using energy if you're the rogue. Everyone has special abilities. No one's just really attacking, and it's kind of nullified what a wizard is a little bit.
And this
I think maybe rather than, you know, the specific role you want to see, what you're kind of lamenting is that magic has kind of like become like just another flavor of damage, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, that's how I do damage with this magic. You know, it's just a thing that I do to do DPS, right? Rather than, you know, having some kind of like magic. I think it's better if it's a little more rare, you know? If it seems a little more special or a little
Exactly.
more, you know?
What I really like specifically with what Final Fantasy did with the mages is they all have a distinct like calling card, right? Like the black mage has the hat, right? The white mage has the robe. The red mage has the feathered cap, you know? The blue mage typically has the mask. And I like that. I like being able to look at a character and have some semblance of understanding of who they are. And I feel like I really enjoy like the Elder Scrolls games because of the freedom they give you. But you know, when I look at somebody in the Elder Scrolls, if they're really good at magic or they're really good at fighting, they all kind of blend together.
You want it to be a little more stringent, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really like the idea of being confined to a role, right?
Well, I think in the more single-player games, you tend to be more jack of all trades sometimes. I mean, it depends on how deep character customization goes or how open or closed the game is. Kind of a weird aside, but would you consider, I mean, this came up a lot back in the day, but would you consider biotics in Mass Effect mages? And then by the same stance, does that mean the people that put stuff into what was like engineering, like the tech skills?
Well,
I mean, is that the same thing?
Well, I mean, it functions the same, and this is what we're talking about with like, you know, just magic is like a flavor of damage, you know? How do you do your damage? Oh, you know, I throw not fireball, but you know, biotic blast or lift, you know, things like that. These are magical effects. You know, there's the magic.
I guess
and technology quote that
you made me think of perhaps a better way to explain it, where I don't want magic, and I think this speaks to your Mass Effect point, I don't want magic to be just a tool, right? Like I feel like when you remove personality from it and it's just numbers, that's way less interesting to me.
That's Borderlands.
Right, that is Borderlands, that's true. So I think that what I miss from things like Final Fantasy or Ultima or Wizardry is I feel like a wizard was a specific type of person, you know? They couldn't fight very well, but they were very intelligent. They weren't very sociable, you know, but they knew a lot about the world. And I think that's sort of what I'm missing. Even now, I'm reading the Dark Souls 2 thread on NeoGAF, the official thread went up today, and like, people are mostly just being like, okay, this class has these numbers, this class has these numbers, and to me that really bores me.
Classes don't exist. I mean, you have a starting thing, but I wouldn't say classes
No,
really
I
exist.
know. I'm just
sorry,
using to illustrate
kind of
a
bugs
point.
Me a little bit. No, I understand.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you ever played any of the Ultima games, but you were the avatar, and you could you'd answer questions. In the early games, how you ever answered questions would make you a shepherd or a knight or some sort of wizard or something like that. The one I played a lot was Ultima 6 and 7, and it was interesting because you would have spells, and I think one of the ways to differentiate it from just being combat is you had like your level 0 spells, the cantrips, which you kind of cast at any time. They're really simple. You know, make some light, create food or something like that. Because this is back when you had to like eat in games and stuff like that.
Right.
Then like your level 1, level 2 spells, and they get increasingly more complex, and you'd have to collect like runes and certain. I always say this word wrong. reagents.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go hunt for mandrake roots if you actually wanted to cast a spell or something like that. And it made it more involved and made it feel more special.
Exactly.
And it made those effects a little more special. But then you did have your bag of tricks, your cantrips to pull out and use as you needed to.
That's just something that's kind of gone away. You know, in old D&D, that in order to cast a spell, you had to have materials.
Ben, I know you played Dragon's Dogma, right? And
yes.
In addition to having really cool magic that feels powerful and has secondary effects, like it can create platforms for you, you also, as a mage, can learn just like a levitate ability.
Right.
And you can jump and just levitate around, and you kind of have those little tricks, and you can't really engage in physical combat. You have to stand back, and you spend time casting spells. Some of the more elaborate spells, kind of rise up off the ground. It's really dramatic, good stuff.
And
that's
I'm
one of
sure
my
you
favorite.
can only reach things, certain things.
That's one of my
way.
favorite takes on a mage.
Like I think magic is like kind of like puzzles are always kind of loosely, in some RPGs, like loosely fit in. And I always like when there's a magical solution or multiple solutions. Like everything, again, Ultima 6, I played a ton of it. Like everything had a multiple solution. A lot of times it was magic. Use telekinesis on a lever so you can lift the portcullis. If not, you have to send the little mouse under the portcullis to flip the switch or something like that. So yeah, it is definitely more. It should be more than combat at times. Like Final Fantasy III, I like when you have to turn into the little frogs to enter the fortress or become the midgets to get in the little hole or something like that. Little things, but like it adds flavor to that kind of world.
Exactly.
And it makes the magic again seem more than just numbers and optimization, because optimization is in a way the death of games, but it seems to be where games go, especially with the kind of the group mind on the internet.
I feel like Magic, one of its key things, right, is it should be surprising, and something that's sort of disappointed me, specifically in JRPGs, but in other games as well, is elemental stuff, right? Like, it feels like everything has been done that could possibly be done with ice being weak to fire, or water being weak to lightning.
It's been played out since 1993.
Yeah. And, like, having a mage being able to exploit enemy elemental weaknesses is just, I'm so over it, you know what I mean? And that's something that I like about Dark Souls, is I feel like it's trying to keep that element of mystery there, right? Like they keep putting new magic in and they don't tell you what it does, right? Like dark magic was mysterious to me. Hexes in Dark Souls 2 are mysterious to me. Pyromancy was initially mysterious to me. And I feel like they make it just convoluted enough where I feel like I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, which I think is key to what magic is.
Osmodan, Nosgoth, Gul'dan, Nox Ramus, Holy Obana.
Hey man, I'm sorry I have to interrupt and bring this up, but it's really not cool that you do that in the office.
Why?
I mean, some people have allergies. I'm allergic. I can't handle it. I'm sorry.
They're allergic to necromancy?
Yeah, man. It's the bone that I can't deal with it.
All right, whatever.
We're here at GDC checking out, lots of goggles and things you wear this week. And one of the cooler things we've seen is Cast AR. And it's different, probably the most different thing we've seen. I think a lot of people right now are looking at things that are very similar to Oculus, but you guys are doing it different. This is more augmented reality, right?
Correct.
So give us kind of an idea of what a user sees when they get put this on. It's hard to show you guys because it's hard to get footage off of this.
Yeah, it's very difficult to describe in a 2D medium what it's like. But the way the glasses work is there's two small projectors that project a very dim image out, but it hits a special surface called a retroreflector. And this retroreflector takes all the light from the projector and bounces it back to the user and through clear lenses, so you see right through the glasses, then you see this projected image, and it looks like a hologram. It pops, the characters and the graphics pop up out of the table, can be rendered at the table's height or into the table. Or if you hang it on this retroreflective cloth on the wall, it's like a monitor, but it's a giant monitor. You can just keep adding more and more reflective cloth, and glasses track your head position, will present the correct image in the fabric.
In the frame, yeah. And one of the things I saw here was like this maze game where you're running around and you could kind of duck to the side to peek around corners and get real low, and you change all the angle, and it feels like you want to reach out and touch these toys that are on the table, and they're just not there. It's, I guess the closest thing would be like hollow chess and
Yeah, like the Star Wars, yeah.
And, you know, it gets me all geeked out, excited. So, what was your inspiration? Why is this something you felt like, you know, it's obviously really different and something we haven't seen before? And
it was actually an accident. So I was working on VR, conventional VR displays where you're cut off from the world, trying to solve like motion sickness and headaches that you get from it. And I was developing this test rig on my workbench, and I put a component in backwards. And so instead of projecting into my eyes, I projected into the room. And one of my colleagues had a piece of this retroreflective material out in the room that he was using for some laser experiments. And I saw this beautiful image like projected out into the room. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I started like looking at it, and I realized that by moving the displays away from your eyes, like a near eye display, like a regular VR rig, you put a display really close to your eyes, and it can be very stressful on your eyes. But putting it out at a regular monitor distance, or like if you roll this material out on your table, it's a comfortable distance to look, and you don't get headaches, and you get to do some very interesting game interactions. And it's very social too, because you can see right through the glasses. I can see you.
Right.
I can see your reaction when I blow up your ship or something on our game we're playing, and
yeah, I mean,
you're not
like
cut off.
the type of thing you'd obviously want to see on this is board games where, you know, a bunch of people are standing around the table and you can move your characters around. Is there stuff like that I know you guys are really working on the hardware, but have you seen software developers working on anything like that?
So we've been talking to a lot of developers. There's a lot of interest out there from indies and some larger houses. We have Unity integrations, so if you're a Unity developer, it's just a cinch. It's like 5 minutes to port your game over to it.
Wow.
Yeah. You have to tweak some things
Right.
and get like the orientation right and the right zoom levels, but it's pretty easy to develop for. We're also developing some input devices that allow you to interact in this 3D space. We have a wand, which uses the same tracking system as the glasses, so you can reach out into 3D space and you can, you know, touch your characters and move them around and to command them to go somewhere. You know, personally, I want to see an RTS in this, so I circle my units and then I go attack and just click over and have them go. There's going to be a lot of interesting like tabletop gaming experiences with this, especially with the wand. We're developing an RFID grid also for tabletop gaming as an add-on peripheral that you can put inexpensive RFID tags on the bottom of playing cards or on miniatures, and the computer will be able to track where you place them on the table, and then you can render graphics around those miniatures. That's or have your stats hanging off there. They could shoot fireballs out or whatever. We can also do flight simulators, first-person shooters, just by configuring the surface in a different way. Instead of having it rolled out on your table, you just hang it on the wall like a poster. Now it's a giant stereoscopic 3D display. It's tracking your head position. So
if we went home and we got this material and we put it all over the room, can we build can I build like a holodeck? Like, is this the closest thing that we've seen to a working holodeck?
Yeah. You could totally build a holodeck if you wanted to go that crazy with it. So there's tracking markers that you put into the room, and the glasses identify these markers. And if you place these markers in the material in the room, you'd be able to spin 360 degrees. And Unity, just when you develop your game, and it will render all the time. And so if there's a piece of material there, the graphics will be there. It's pretty magical. Like, and the more material you have up, the more
just keep making it bigger. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's super comfortable to look at. And you can see your hands or your game controller.
Well, and that's the other thing. The glasses are kind of much lighter than a lot of the other stuff you've worn, because I guess, you know, it's not trying to do as much, right? It's not trying to envelop your kind of whole senses. When can people get their hand on this? I know it was a Kickstarter and you're going to start rolling out dev kits, but when can, you know, when am I building my holodeck? This is what I'm trying to say. When is that going to be able to happen?
So we're several months out on the developer glasses, and that's just going to be our projected mode of operation. At the end of the year, we're going to start shipping our Kickstarter deliverables of the glasses, the wand, the RFID grid, and VR clips. And that's one thing I didn't cover. There's a clip that goes over and makes it a near-eye display it's transparent, so you can do it without the surface. Or you can flip down some visors and it becomes a true VR experience.
Wow. So this is all one person needs to get the full VR and AR experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome.